And it's that testing that is so essential. As they've gotten older, they love to start punching matches with me. Luke just did it this morning. I'm downstairs fixing breakfast. Luke senses the opportunity, and he sneaks downstairs and silently stalks me. When he's in range, he lets loose a wallop. It hurts, and they need to see that it hurts. Do they have a strength like Dad's? Is it growing, real, substantive? I'll never forget the day when Sam gave me a bloody lip, quite by accident, when we were wrestling. At first he drew back in fear, waiting, I'm sorry to admit, for my anger. Thankfully, on this occasion, I just wiped the blood away, smiled, and said, Whoa, nice shot. He beamed. No, he strutted, shook his antlers at me. Word quickly spread through the house, and his younger brothers were on the scene, eyes wide at the fact that one of them had drawn blood. New possibilities opened up. Maybe young bucks can take on the old bull. The ancient societies believed that a boy becomes a man only through ritual and effort, only through the active intervention of the older men, Bly reminds us. The father or another man must actively intervene, and the mother must let go. Bly tells the story of one tribal ritual, which involves, as they all do, the men taking the boy away for initiation. But in this case, when he returns, the boy's mother pretends not to know him. She asks to be introduced to the young man. That is a beautiful picture of how a mother can cooperate in her son's passage to the father's world. If she does not, things get very messy later, especially in marriage. The boy develops a bond with his mother that is like emotional incest. His loyalties are divided. That is why Scripture says, For this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife. Genesis 2:24. Sometimes when the mother clings, the boy will try to tear himself away violently. This typically comes in the teenage years and often involves some ugly behavior, maybe some foul words on the part of the young man. She feels rejected and he feels guilty, but he knows he must get away. This was my story, and my relationship with my mother has never been good since. I've found that many adult men resent their mothers, but cannot say why. They simply know they do not want to be close to them. They rarely call. As my friend Dave confessed, I hate calling my mom. She always says something like, It's so good to hear your little voice. I'm 25 and she still wants to call me her little lamb. Somehow he senses that proximity to his mother endangers his masculine journey, as though he might be sucked back in. It is an irrational fear, but it reveals that both essential ingredients in his passage were missing. Mom did not let go, and Dad did not take him away. Whatever the mother's failure, it can be overcome by the father's engagement. Let's come back to the rock climbing story with Sam. Did you really think I was a wild man up there? He did not ask, Do you think I'm a nice boy? He asked about his strength, his dangerous capacity to really come through. A boy's passage into manhood involves many of those moments. The father's role is to arrange for them, invite his boy into them, keep his eye out for the moment the question arises, and then speak into his son's heart. Yes, you are. You have what it takes. And that is why the deepest wound is always given by the father. As Buchner says, if strangers and strange sights can shake the world of children, it takes the people they know and love best to pull it out from under them like a chair. The father wound. Dave remembers the day the wound came. His parents were having an argument in the kitchen, and his father was verbally abusing his mother. Dave took his mom's side, and his father exploded. I don't remember all that was said, but I do remember his last words. You are such a mama's boy, he yelled at me. Then he walked out. Perhaps if Dave had a strong relationship with his dad most of the time, a wound like this might be lessened, healed later by words of love. But the blow came after years of distance between them. Dave's father was often gone from morning till night with his own business, and so they rarely spent time together. What is more, Dave felt a lingering disappointment from his dad. He wasn't the star athlete, which he knew his dad highly valued. He had a spiritual hunger and often attended church, which his dad did not value. And so those words fell like a final blow, a death sentence. Leanne Payne says that when the father-son relationship is right, the quiet tree of masculine strength within the father protects and nurtures the fragile stripling of masculinity within his son. Dave's father took an axe and gave his hardest blow to his young tree. How I wish it were a rare case, but I am deeply sorry to say I've heard countless stories like it. There's a young boy named Charles who loved to play the piano, but his father and brothers were jocks. One day they came back from the gym to find him at the keyboard, and who knows what else had built up years of scorn and contempt in his father's soul, but his son received both barrels. "You're such a faggot," a man my father's age told me of growing up during the Depression. Times were hard for his family, and his father, an alcoholic rarely employed, hired him out to a nearby farmer. One day while he was in the field, he saw his father's car pull up. He hadn't seen him for weeks, and he raced to meet his dad. Before he could get there, his father had grabbed the check for his son's wages, and, spying the boy running toward him, he jumped in the car and sped away. The boy was 5 years old. In the case of violent fathers, the boy's question is answered in a devastating way. "Do I have what it takes? Am I a man, Papa?" "No, you're a mama's boy, an idiot, a faggot, a seagull." Those are defining sentences that shape a man's life. The assault wounds are like a shotgun blast to the chest. This can get unspeakably evil when it involves physical, sexual, or verbal abuse carried on for years. Without some kind of help, many men never recover. One thing about the assault wounds, they are obvious. The passive wounds are not. They are pernicious, like a cancer. Because they are subtle, they often go unrecognized as wounds, and therefore are actually more difficult to heal. My father was in many ways a good man. He introduced me to the West and taught me to fish and to camp. I still remember the fried egg sandwiches he would make us for dinner. It was his father's ranch that I worked on each summer, and my dad and I saw a lot of the West together as we'd make the long drive from Southern California to Oregon, often with fishing detours through Idaho and Montana. But like so many men of his era, my father had never faced the issues of his own wound, and he fell to drinking when his life began to take a downhill churn.